Sri we humbly welcome you all to this great evening seminar by His Grace Chaitanya Charan Prabhuji. The topic is wisdom. How good is the enemy of best?
We're extremely happy and blessed to have the association of His Grace Chaitanya Charan Prabhuji this evening. We would like to give some quick background.
Prabhuji is a monk and spiritual author. He has done his electronics and telecommunication engineering from the Government College of Engineering in Pune. He served as a software engineer in a prominent multinational software corporation. He also secured 2350 out of 2400 in his GRE, ranking top in Maharashtra.
His Grace is member of ISKCON's leading intellectual body, the Shastrik Advisory Council, and is the associate editor of ISKCON's global magazine, Back to Godhead. He is the author of the world's only Gita daily feature, wherein he writes daily a 300-word inspirational reflection on a verse from the Bhagavad Gita. He has written Gita meditations that are posted on gitadaily.com.
Prabhuji also answers questions by seekers on his site, thespiritualscientist.com. He travels all over America and Australia, giving talks on spiritual subjects in temples, universities, and companies. The following are a few books that Guruji has written himself. Why Do We Need a Temple? Frequently Asked Questions, and the Gita of Daily Enrichment.
Again, with great love, let's welcome His Grace Chaitanya Charan Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you for all joining us in Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you for coming today evening. I'll speak today on the topic of how the good can be the enemy of the best and also the friend of the best. So what do I mean here by the good and the best? So I'll take this class in three parts. First I will give a philosophical context about what we mean by good and best. Then I will talk briefly a story from the Ramayana along with some other scriptural incidents, and then we'll have a concluding part to bring it all together. And you can have questions after each of the three parts as well as at the end when we have time. So in general, life forces all of us to make choices. Sometimes the choices are small. Okay, today evening when I cook food at home, should I cook this item or that item? Or it can be sometimes a very big choice. Should I take this job or that job? Should I marry this person or that person? Should I stay in this country or immigrate to that country? Basically, during our life, constantly we have to make choices. And normally when we make choices, actually, what is the basis on which we make those choices? We all have a certain framework. So for example, we have certain priorities, certain purposes, based on which we choose. Okay, this is what I want to do with my life, and by doing this, if this can also be done, it's good. But if this can't be done, this is what I want to do. So if you are going, say, to meet someone, and along the way there is a fast food center or a food center where some attractive snacks are there. So now we want to eat that along the way. Now if there's a long queue over there and we have to wait for half an hour, 1 hour, you might say, not worth it. Forget it. But if we are just going for a leisurely tour and he's going for fun. Okay, no point. I'll wait for some, no problem. I'll wait for some time. So basically, when we make a choice, on what is the basis on which we make the choice? Usually, it is not just how much we like it or we don't like it, but it is also how much this will influence that which is most important for me. So basically, there are whatever things we have in our life, there is a hierarchy of importance for them. So, for example, we want to say have food that tastes good, but at the same time, just the food that tastes good may not always be healthy. So you may have one item which tastes good, but then other items which are healthy. So when we eat food, it is not just the food that tastes good. So tasting good is one value, but health is another value. And in this hierarchy, if the health is put at a very high level and taste is not considered at all, then what happens? Eating becomes an austerity. So, like children have to told, eat your broccolis. So now broccoli is like a symbol of a food that is healthy but not tasty, and you have to force somebody to eat it. So if there is no taste, but it's not delicious but only nutritious, then we don't feel much pleasure eating it. But it's only delicious and not nutritious. Then what happens? Then it will be delicious for some time, but it can be vicious for our health in the long run. So basically, food that is delicious is good. But food that is nutritious is even better. And food that is delicious and nutritious is the best. So this is a hierarchy of values. Sometimes some people take some food which are actually neither delicious nor nutritious. Some people may take some food which is extremely spicy. When they eat it, tears come from their eyes. But then they feel stimulated by that. Now, it's not enough for their particular body, it might be nutritious also, we don't know. But for most people, it may not be. So, just as in the food there is a hierarchy, and there can be good, better and best. So similarly, just as food is what we need in our life, broadly speaking, in our life, what is the purpose that we live for? And how does that purpose affect our various values in life? That is what we'll be discussing. So broadly speaking, there are three kinds of actions we could see. There is vikarma, there is karma, and there is akarma. Or another way to put it is pap, punya, and bhakti. So what does this mean? So pap or sin is action that might be pleasant right now, but it has terrible consequences. So it is action which when we don't consider the consequences at all. It's as somebody steps down from a 10-story building. Steps out. Now they may forget gravity, but gravity won't forget them. They'll come crashing down. So what happens is that when we are in the lower modes, and our consciousness is not at all clear, then we don't even think of what I'm doing. So punya, so papa is like, there might be very little immediate pleasure, but there is a lot of trouble that comes out of it. Now punya, on the other hand, is where we do something material to get something better material. So we do means we sacrifice something materially to get something better materially. In fact, this is one of the most significant differences between humans and animals. That, what are the four activities common to humans and animals? Eating, sleeping. These are four common things. And now these, at one level, are required for the existence and for the continuance of the existence. These activities are required. But what is the difference between the two of them? Between humans and animals, what are the activities that is different?
Intelligence.
Consciousness.
Realize
They have the human beings. Speech.
Speech, consciousness, what did you
They
say?
can do bhakti. The animals cannot do
They
bhakti.
can do bhakti, animals can't do bhakti. Yes.
And also they can feel what is humans. Yeah. The human beings can feel what is right and what is wrong.
What is right and what is wrong? Yes.
Choice.
Choice. That's true.
Intelligence is
Intelligence. Yeah, all these are pointing in the direction. Let's look at it first from maybe a scientific perspective, then we'll come to a more experiential and a scriptural perspective. See, all living beings have impulses. Impulses means, hey, I feel like doing something, I do it. So for example, a few days ago was Ekadashi. So now, we human beings might see delicious food, but it is Ekadashi, I won't eat it. Now if a cat sees a mouse, the cat can't think, oh, today is Ekadashi. If the impulse to eat comes, it will immediately eat. So basically, all living beings, just by being in a particular body, have impulses. Animals largely are slaves of their impulse. The impulse comes and they give it to it. Now when the impulse comes, it's not necessarily that they're unintelligent. They might also use their intelligence to fulfill their impulse. So for example, if a tiger wants to catch a deer, and the deer is here, the tiger is here, the wind is flowing this way. And the tiger knows the deer will smell me. The tiger may go all the way around and then attack from the other side. So in a sense, the intelligence is there. So when we say somebody is impulsive, that doesn't mean that they lack intelligence. It just means that the impulse is fulfilled intelligently. The intelligence is not used to evaluate the impulse. The intelligence is used to fulfill the impulse. So intelligence, in one sense, all living beings have. But the intelligence to check the impulse. Check can be used in two senses. Check means, is this worth fulfilling? And I'm getting this impulse, but I'll stop it. So that intelligence animals don't have. So what is a choice or conscience? That's also correct in that sense. That means we might get an urge to do something, but if our intelligence is strong, then although the impulse comes, we can evaluate the impulse. And we can say, I don't want to fulfill this impulse. And this, at its fullest extent, is directed towards spirituality. So by this capacity to check impulse, we can look beyond short-term things to long-term things. So for example, we human beings spend a lot of time educating our next generation. No other species spends so much time. There's education that is given in all species. But it is very functional kind of education. But we human beings spend a lot of time educating our children, because by this, the whole idea of education at one level is to see beyond the immediate, to see the long term. The whole principle of education is a child can just play, or even a child can start working and earn something, or a child, maybe a youth, a teenager can also work, take a job and earn something. But what they're doing when they're educating is, now, studies might not be enjoyable for everyone, but they are at least guided by the parents and by the development of their own intelligence. In a sense, they are trading the present for the future. The present, whatever enjoyment I might get, I will sacrifice that so that I can get more in the future. So this capacity to restrain our impulses and look for something in the future, to see the long term, that is a human capacity. In fact, every field, it is, scientists may do 100 or 1,000 experiments to try to arrive at one insight. Now they could just function with whatever knowledge they have, but okay, I'm not getting any understanding by this, but I'll keep doing it. Why? So I'll keep doing this so that I'll be able to move forward in my life. The idea is that the scientists, they have certain existing level of knowledge, they might be able to work. But they might do 100, 1,000, 5,000 experiments. But because they want to get some more insight. And that insight might transform the way we function in the world. So the basic point I'm making is that we human beings have the capacity to sacrifice the present for the future, which other species don't have. Other species. Now, sometimes some species prepare for the future also. Say, whenever if the seasons are going to change, birds might migrate from one country to another country. But it is not by conscious planning. Just it is like they have instinct. It just tells them go there. They don't make a conscious plan. That's why a bird can build a very intelligent nest, very artistic nest. But it is not that each bird will keep preparing a better and better nest. It's not that, say, you put 100 birds together and they will have a nest building competition. And who has built the best nest? Sometimes in fairy tales you might have competition among birds also. But in real life, the birds, even if they have artistry, that artistry is not done by conscious choice. It is just by, you could say, programmed intelligence that is there. But the intelligence to question our programming, to direct our programming, to reprogram ourselves, that is distinctly there in humans. So because we have the conscience to choose right or wrong, that's how actually we can do more good than other species, and we can also do more bad than other species. We generally don't talk about animals as being evil. If a tiger eats a deer, the tiger is not evil. The tiger is acting simply according to its bodily drives. But if a human being kills someone, that's evil. So when we will talk about the bad, the good and the best. So the bad is papa. The good is punya. And the best is bhakti. And how are these three related with our preceding discussion of impulses? So, impulse and intelligence. So when we human beings are simply impulsive, we soon degenerate towards papa. We start degenerate towards wrongdoing. You want to eat food, you just keep going, whatever tastes good, whatever tastes good. Then what happens is that we might just kill brutally. Now there we have organized slaughterhouses, which are horrible. I just was in Hawaii, and there's one devotee couple who were hosting me. So the devotee Mataji, she was from one of the Soviet Russia states. I think it was Byelorusia or one of those states. So she was telling that they were in that country, that their profession was they would cook and sell crabs. Now crabs are among the only animals in the world which are cooked alive. They are aquatics, and somehow it's said that if their body gets decomposed, a lot of germs and stuff come in and they become very sick. So actually you catch the crab and put it in hot water. You can see it suffering. And that was their profession. He said that, and I never thought it was wrong because this is what every one of us are doing. But then when I read Prabhupada's books and I understood Bhakti, I said, what am I doing? Just stop it immediately. And it created like a furor in her family. What is this profession? How can you stop this? So, but somehow she was very firm and then she continued it. But the point I'm making here is that the search for pleasure, if we are governed only by impulses, now one animal might kill another animal, but which animal will torture another animal by boiling it in boiling water and then eat it? Nobody will do that. So if we live only for our impulses, we end up going towards wrongdoings, towards sin, and that is bad. And we see this in every aspect of life today. I just recently wrote an article about documentary film, which my movie film motion picture was made on the issue of abortion. It's called Unplanned. So this was a woman who was herself an abortion clinic director, and under her 22,000 abortions were done. And even after doing these, she never knew what actually happens in abortion. She was educated as if there's just there is a lump of tissue in the body and the tissue is removed. So then she was a clinic director, and once there was a sonography guided abortion that has to be. So as the embryo becomes bigger and bigger, you need more and more support to do that abortion. So then she said, she was called, there's nobody to assist, can you assist? And so after being 12 or 13 years in that profession, first time she actually went to see how an abortion is done. She was director of the clinic. And then when she saw it, the sonography and actually saw a baby, and a fully formed baby with hand, legs, ears and everything. And then the suction machine goes inside the embryo and the baby is struggling to get out. And then the suction machine catches and then systematically crushes. And it's horrifying for her to see. And that very day she just said, I can't continue this. And she gave it up completely. So now, somehow, even people working in the abortion industry, they're blinded to the reality of abortion. So they don't even use the word abortion. They just use various words, like the organization which does this primarily as abortion. They call themselves as Planned Parenthood. So Planned Parenthood. That feels like a very sweet sound name. And but what are they doing? So what happens? The point which I'm making here is that if the impulses are there in everyone, but only human beings will give in to the impulse in such an indiscriminate way that they can become brutally cruel towards their own progeny eventually. So when we live only for our impulses, we go towards power, and that is bad. Can be very bad, depending on how bad what kind of action you are doing, it will vary. But then there is punya. Punya is where we start looking at the long term. As I said, we humans have the intelligence to check our impulses, to sacrifice the present for the future. But the difference between punya and bhakti is primarily in terms of how long term we see. In terms of long term, there are 4 categories. There are 4 categories of living beings. We say there is Martya, there is Amara, there is Chiranjeeva, and there is Nitya. So Martya is we human beings living on the earth. So we have a finite lifespan, maybe 100 years or so. That's Martya. Now as compared to us, those who live in Swarga, they live for a very long time, thousands and thousands of years. So they are called as Amara. But they are not literally eternal. But as compared to us, they live forever. So it's in a comparative sense, they are called Amara. The beyond Amara is Chiranjeeva. So those who live for the lifespan of one universe, that is one lifetime of Brahma, which is an astronomical amount. That's Chiranjeeva. Now specific terms and durations may vary depending on certain contexts, but beyond it all is Nitya. So only Nitya is eternal. So by Punya, one can rise to a higher level of existence, where we can have better lifespan, better facilities. But it's only by Bhakti that one can go beyond this material world. We can go to the spiritual world where life is eternal. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, A Brahma Bhuvana Loka Punaravartino Arjuna Mamupetyatu Kaunteya Punarjanmana Vidyate. So in 8.15 he says, 8.15 and 16 he talks about this. So in 8.16 he says that A Brahma Bhuvana Loka. Right from the abode of Brahma, which is the highest level in the world, Bhuvana, towards the lower hellish planets. Punaravartino Arjuna. Everywhere if one goes, one will come back again. One's lifespan will be temporary. One will have to die and take birth again. And Mama pete tu kaunteya, but if you worship me, you won't come back in this world. Punarjanmana vidyate. So the good is the bad is papa, the good is punya, and the best is bhakti. Because in punya also we are thinking of something long term. Thinking not just about myself and my pleasure immediately, we are thinking about long term, and that is good. But in bhakti, we think not just of the material long term, but we think about the spiritual long term. So, okay, I'll conclude this with this a little philosophy, but I'll conclude this with one part, and you can have some questions if you have any. See, we could say there are two broad systems of thought. There are the Abrahamic religions, Judaism, Christianity, Islam, and there are the Dharmic religions. In Dharmic religions, we have Buddhism, Jainism, Hinduism, Sikhism. So now, if you see among them, let's consider, say, Buddhism on one side and Christianity on another side. So Christianity, Islam, and similarly, they have many similarities. So Christianity accepts the soul without reincarnation. And Buddhism accepts the reincarnation without the soul. So what happens now? That means Christians say, yeah, there is a soul, but they say that this life is the only life you have. So what happens because of this? The religion, because there is no difference between body and the soul, their idea of religion also becomes quite materialistic. Materialistic means there are people who have the idea that, oh, if I go to heaven, I will enjoy life in heaven. So at least in Christianity, the idea of heaven is like an eternal family reunion. So your grandfather and your grandmother and your cousin who passed away and your uncle and your this, all of you will be happily reunited. So, but the idea is, it's materialism. Materialism means it's centered on the body and relationships based on the body. Now, in some versions of Islam, that same materialism is extended even further. It's not like eternal family reunion. Many of these jihadis are made to believe that if you kill and die during jihad, you will go to Jannah. And in Jannah, you will for the rest of eternity enjoy with 73 virgins. So now when they're laying down their lives, that is not out of love for Allah. That is out of love for those virgins. So what is happening? So it's basically, if there is no understanding of spirituality properly, religion can also be misused. So at one level, somebody is, oh, I'll follow scripture and I'll do something. They're doing something destructive because of that. So punya basically means we worship God, follow some religion, but the idea is God will make my life better in this world. And punya is not bad. Punya is definitely better than pap, but it is not the best. Because punya will not give us anything eternal. It will give us something which will last for some time, but it is temporary. Now, of course, what was talked about in the way the verses are interpreted in the Quran, that's of course not what is actually said, but it is just interpreted so that people's imagination can be fired and they can be exploited for their own vested interests, for the vested interests of some people. But the broad point I'm making here is there is punya, papa and bhakti. So any questions or comments about this till now?
Thank you. Just a quick question on the last point that you just made with regard to papa versus bhakti, the three categories that you mentioned. So in some cases, yes, devotees distribute prasad and related to bhakti, but also there are other runas or debts that everybody owes to Manushya and society and things like that. So it is also recommended that we do something, like digging a well, and so how does that apply to devotees? Look, can that be dovetailed? Say somebody is giving some donation to a hospital. Can that be sort of dovetailed to being spiritual if you think of Krishna and do, even though it's not directly spiritual but distantly connected to doing some activities that are meant to be done?
Okay, excellent question. So, if there's something like our debt to the devatas or debt to our ancestors, And there are some pious activities are recommended, like say digging a well or something like that. So how should devotees see this? Yes, so Prabhupada in the Ishopanishad says that all kinds of isms, in talking about communism, capitalism, all these isms can be perfected if they are done for Krishna. So basically now, actually this was going to be the concluding part of my class, but let's bring it to this point here. As compared to Papa, Punya is, you could say, hundreds of times better. Why hundreds of times better? Like even this example I gave of a family structure and of parenting and abortion and all that. So when I go to colleges in America and Canada and Western Australia also, when I talk with students, so many kids are from broken families. There was one boy, he was coming for I was there at one place for almost 2 months, and this boy was coming for each program. And after coming for four or five programs, he started being close with us. He said, I grew up in a foster home. And I asked, oh, what happened? Did your parents pass away in an accident or what? He says, no, both my parents are alive. I said, really? Then what, why are you living in a foster home? He said, when I was 5, my parents separated. When they separated, both my parents told me that this marriage was the biggest mistake of my life. And you remind me of that mistake. And both the parents said, I don't want anything to do with you. Okay, how horrifying it is, isn't it? Okay, but what is the child's mistake? Your marriage might be a mistake, but why take it out of the child? So although he had both parents, he became a ward of the state. And he went to an orphanage for some time, but after that he stayed in a foster home. So now, here you can say that, what is the level of irresponsibility over there? Okay, two people can't get along. Okay, sometimes it happens, what can be done? It's not good, but somehow we should try to tolerate, but we can't. So what to do? At one level, after marriage, say, the parents make children. But at another level, the children make parents. In the sense that children force people to become responsible. I can't just think about my pleasure and my indulgences, but think of the child and start taking care of the child. Now everybody has a need to nurture. A need to nurture. And if somebody doesn't take care of that need to nurture, then they will find something else to nurture. So somehow in the Western world, feminism, if you want to say feminism in terms of women should be given equal opportunities in their career, and so that's fine. But sometimes feminism becomes very aggressive. So what happens? There is a trivialization of the maternal role. And then, so this abortion, it is quite clearly, if we look at it from scientific perspective, logical perspective, experiential perspective, it's the baby has life. But what some aggressive feminists say is that, now Prabhupada gave a simple reasoning: if a man and woman come together without proper responsibility, the woman becomes pregnant, and then she is stuck with the child. So women need to be protected, and marriage is a structure where they are protected. So women say that actually nature has been unfair to us. So their argument is, when first I read it, I was so shocked. It says, pregnancy is biological slavery, and abortion is technological liberation. So nature has been so unfair to us that nature has burdened us with pregnancy. Actually, bearing a new life is a special privilege, and that privilege nature gives to women. And it's such a deep-rooted need. But when that is completely distorted, society can collapse completely. So, in many traditional cultures, if a couple doesn't have a child, they feel unhappy and they try various means to have a child. We have so many kings who do various yajnas. Even Ramayana, there is Dasharatha does various yajnas. So now, there are many women, they don't like to say, I'm childless. They say, I'm child-free. Now, if somebody doesn't want to have children, that's okay. That's their choice. But to say, when you say it's a child-free, then child is a burden. when we just let ourselves be completely governed by impulses, now, society will just not have its foundation at all. So the point I'm making here is, say they're taking care of the family. It's the basic functional unit for society. And now even if your family members don't become devotees, but still taking that responsibility is very important. And getting out of ourselves by that, if one takes care of one's family responsibility, that is punya. If somebody thinks that is all that is there to dharma, then that's incomplete. But we can't minimize or trivialize that. Same way, if we live in a broader social circle, then the whole principle of yajna is that if we take something, we have to give something. So if we are taking something from society, it's our duty to give something to society. Just like, say we take amenities from the government, then we give taxes to the government. So similarly, as far as charity is concerned, so sometimes if charity becomes a substitute for spirituality, or rather social welfare becomes a substitute for spiritual welfare, then that is unhealthy. But it's not that always it has to be a competitor for that. Sometimes it can be. There's one disaster relief organization whose slogan is God, in double quotes, God sends disasters, we send relief. It's a horrible way of looking at things. It's not that God is sending disasters. It is. Now, why disasters happen, you can get into a lot of analysis about that. But the point is, God is not the cause of the suffering of the world. God is ultimately the cure of the suffering of the world. So, now if somebody starts doing social welfare as a means of rejecting God, then that social welfare is unhealthy. So in India also there are some people who say Manav Seva hi Madhav Seva. Now okay, it depends on in what context we are saying it. If you are saying that people are starving and you just go to the temple and worship the temple and not take care of people at all, well that should not be done. In most Indian temples, wherever there is opulent worship of the deities, there is also abundant distribution of food. And anybody can come and take food in the Udupi temples, only the temples. So we don't have to separate Manav Seva and Madhav Seva like that. So in Madhav Seva is not just going to temple and doing worship. Madhav Seva is a holistic culture which also includes taking care of human beings. We see in the Govardhan Puja, when the puja is done for Govardhan, Krishna says offer food to everyone, offer food to not just cows but all living beings, other animals also, and not just to Brahmanas, give dakshina and food, give to all people of all castes. So the point over there is that Madhav Seva is a whole culture which includes Manav Seva. But when Manav Seva is separated from Madhav Seva, you just do this, why do you need to do that? So some people, there was one person who was considered to be quite a prominent spiritual teacher, he said, you Hindus, why do you water Tulsi? What do you get by watering Tulsi? If at all you want to spend time watering something, you water a brinjal tree. You will get something to eat. Now this is completely utilitarian and there is no transcendental understanding that Tulsi Devi is a manifestation of the Supreme Goddess of Fortune. Worshipping her. Now how much water are you going to put on Tulsi? Is Tulsi a competitor to some edible food? Hardly. So when Manav Seva is positioned as a competitor to Madhav Seva, then what happens? People say, why spend so much money on this? Spend money on this. But Madhav Seva is inclusive and these things can also be done within it. So now with respect to charity or with respect to any kind of social activism, we could say, social welfare. See, as devotees, we all have certain from the past. So some people might be, even before coming to bhakti, they might have a lot of zeal to do some kind of social welfare. Now if they have that zeal, it's not that in bhakti you have to give it up. You spiritualize it. If you like to distribute food, then let's see how can you offer food to Krishna and then distribute that food. If you like to help poor people, then see what could you do. Maybe you could have build some houses, but have something spiritual within that. Maybe, so there are various ways in which devotees at an individual level, if that is what they are inspired to do, they can surely do that. Now Srila Prabhupada started ISKCON for a primary purpose, that is promoting Krishna consciousness. So the primary energies of the Krishna consciousness movement should be focused on the direct activities of promoting Krishna consciousness. But devotees who are inspired by the principle of Krishna consciousness, they can take that and at individual level, using their own inspiration, they can do other activities. So when we do such activities, there is a standard process of Krishna consciousness and there is an individual inspiration which we may have, which is broadly compatible with Krishna consciousness. So the individual inspiration that we may have, we could say that is like a preference. And say chanting Hare Krishna, or worshipping the deities, or having satsang, this is a principle. So preferences, if we have, there is no need to campaign for them that everybody should do it. And for somebody else who is, there's no need to campaign, don't do this. No, if you feel inspired, do that and do it in the Krishna consciousness. So when preferences are made into principles, that becomes fanatic. So same way with respect to somebody who has been brought up in a very dharmic consciousness. And they would do some yajna or homa, or they would give some charity like that, say build a well or give some kind of charity. And just because they have to come to bhakti, they don't have to stop giving that charity. I mean, somebody did not have that consciousness before. Now, is it that by practicing bhakti they will develop that consciousness? They may or they may not. Because each one of us has a particular kind of body and mind, and with the kind of body and mind we have, we will function accordingly. So somebody who has just come to bhakti and they are struggling, chant so many rounds, come to these programs, and do this, and you tell them, actually you do this charity also, you do this also, you do this also. This is too much for me. I can't do this. So there is no need to impose this, but there is no need to reject this also. So in general, as devotees, we should live at the level of punya. We don't want to do punya per se, we want to do bhakti. But apart from bhakti, there are direct devotional activities. Apart from the direct devotional activities, we should be living at a level of morality and, we could say, culture and values. So Prabhupada was asked, how do we know your followers? So Prabhupada would have said, they chant 16 rounds, they follow these 4 regs or whatever. But Prabhupada did not say that. What Prabhupada said was, that my followers are perfect gentlemen, perfect ladies and gentlemen. Now what does ladies and gentlemen mean? That means they behave in a way that is respectable, that is cultured. That is, that will be appreciated by people in society. Because people in general, they are not going to care how many rounds you chant. They are not going to care how much you fast. They are not going to care how much puja you do. They will see how you behave. And how you conduct yourself in your day-to-day work. So that's why that is important. We cannot trivialize that. So in general, devotees are recommended to live at the level of punya. It's not that we want to do punya, but punya means we can see the big picture and don't just live for our immediate pleasures. We see the big picture and we contribute to society, we contribute to nation, we contribute to the family, we contribute to the community, and ultimately you contribute to Krishna also. Does that answer your question?
Beautiful.
Any other questions about this? Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay.
I had a follow-up question to what
Sure.
Prabhu asked. Sometimes that delineation between pap and punya is not so clear. For example, over here, like you have many charities, or the Canadian Red Cross where you can donate blood. Then there are clinical research organizations that are, in one sense I've heard, they're karmically very heavy, but then they are working towards getting new medicines that will treat certain ailments. So how do you know where you should invest that?
Okay.
Can I add a question on that?
Yeah, sure.
Can we donate to a charity when they are buying food and they are like United Way, they are giving food probably not sattvic foods, right? Like they may give, they may kill a cow or a chicken or something, which is not evil, right?
Which is not?
Evil in Western culture, right?
Okay.
I mean, killing a dog is evil, but not killing a cow, right?
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Probably in the same line. So, are we supposed to connect all our sakarma with Krishna consciousness? All the karmas. Like, if I want to donate, I'll go to Prabhuji. I'll give it to him because he is handling our Skarno temple. And then whatever he does with that Rashmi.
Okay, I think they're related questions, but they're still distinct. I'll come to them one by one. So, okay, let's look at these two questions related. They say, should we give all our charity to Krishna only, or is it that, suppose we give charity to some organization which gives food, but they may give non-vegetarian food, which they don't consider bad. They consider that also as a way of feeding hungry people. So should we contribute to that? Okay. So there are three modes of material nature. There is sattva, rajas and tamas. And beyond them, there is transcendence. So broadly speaking, we sometimes classify this as spiritual and all this as material. But within material also, we can say sattva is pro-devotional. Rajas is non-devotional. Mode of passion, non-devotional. And tamas is anti-devotional. Now sometimes passion can be anti-devotional also. But broadly speaking, we would say like that. Now, should we give all charity only to Krishna? Since charity is voluntary. It cannot be legislated. In fact, spiritual life is all driven by inspiration. So we cannot legislate it in any way. Bhaktivedanta Swami Thakur, when he had taken a pilgrimage to Vrindavan. So at that time, outside the temple, there were some beggars. And his disciples, they would not give anything to the beggars. And Bhaktivedanta Thakur said that, we may say that I will not give charity to anyone except Hari. And then eventually when the time comes, you don't give charity even to Hari. So he says that charity is not just a matter of activity. Not he's saying this, I'm explaining this more. Charity is not just an activity, charity is a mentality. So some people say, okay, I don't have enough money right now. In the future, my salary will increase, and at that time, I will give 51% of my salary to Krishna. But now, I can't give even 1%. So what happens is that the whole point of charity is not just to give money. It's to inculcate within us the consciousness that what I have got is actually not just mine. It's actually given by me to Krishna. So it's my duty to give a part of it back. So even if somebody gives a huge charity at one time, that's good, but for the mind, for impressions to form, now, more than the quantity of doing something is the frequency of doing it. So the frequency, if every month or whatever, we give a small charity, that habit gets developed in the mind. But if once a year I give some charity, okay, that's also some habit is formed. But like once a year, there are millions of other impressions that are forming in your mind. Somebody says, once in a lifetime I'll give a charity. Okay, that's also good. Some charity is better than nothing. But as far as forming a samskara and impression in the mind, there will be very, very less. So the idea of so what Bhaktivedanta Thakur says that, if somebody is coming to you, if you don't give charity, then your heart will become hard. And with a hard heart, you cannot approach Krishna. So basically, now that does not mean that anybody and everybody who comes, we have to give charity. You also have to be intelligent. But it's best say if we can give prasad. If somebody asks for food, then we can give them, if somebody asks us for something, if we give them money, then they can abuse it. But if we give them food, then it's less likely that they'll abuse it. So there's one devotee in India who started a social welfare organization, and he told me that what he does is, whenever beggars ask him for charity, he tells them that, okay, you go and clean that street and come back, and I will give you enough charity for one meal. He says most beggars don't come back. So the idea is that sometimes when people are in need for help, that help should actually help them to grow, not just keep them where they are or degrade them further. So if we feel inspired to give charity to Krishna, that's wonderful. But the point is we want to develop a soft heart. And if we feel inspired to give charity to other causes, ideally speaking, if you're doing something else, that should not become like a competitor to Krishna. I give so much here, so I cannot give over here. But there should be some service you do to Krishna. And apart from that, if you have some inspiration, then the more we can Krishnaize it, the better it is. So with respect to food, devotees are also working now. Like say Amazon has this, if you buy from Amazon, then they have some charity that Amazon will give a charity. You can donate to a charity of your choice. So now there are many, like the Food for Life or ISKCON Desiratory or so many other forums are also included in that charity. So it's best if we cannot give to a direct devotional charity, we can try to go to a pro-devotional charity. So it's a pro-devotional means that something like somebody is feeling hungry, but they are giving some prasad. Somebody is doing something, it's a welfare, but they are doing the welfare in a devotional context. So if we do it that way, then that is the best. We can't really control how something that we do is going to be used by others. The Mahabharata says that broadly, the actions that we choose, how do we know whether action is right or wrong? And there are three broad factors: intent, content, and consequence. Intent is, why am I doing this? Content is, what exactly am I doing? And consequence is, what is the result of my doing this? So let's say somebody gives, actually one of the triggers for me to start practicing spiritual life or start exploring spiritual life was that the futility or at least the inadequacy of social service became very apparent to me at one time. I had since my childhood a lot of faith in the power of education. By educating people, we can help them create a good, better future for themselves. So when I was studying engineering, at that time I joined a social service organization, and we would near my college there was a slum behind. So on behalf of that organization, I would go to the slums and I would offer free tuitions to the children over there. So I teach English, maths, history, some of things like that. So I was doing that for some time, and soon these kids, they became friends and started telling that almost every one of their houses, their home life was terrible because their fathers, mostly fathers, sometimes mothers also, but mostly fathers were alcoholics. And then under the influence of alcohol, there would be domestic violence and horrible things. So then I started thinking, their home life is so unstable and so insecure. So how much is my teaching them calculus or something like that really going to help them? So then we talked, and that organization was quite flexible. So we decided to go into anti-alcohol campaigning. So I used to go to the slums. One of my friends would go to a nearby village, and we worked and we counseled and we got some other people to come and speak also. And over a period of time, that one small village, that all became free from alcohol. And we felt it was a great victory for us. But then, after that, one day my friend came from that village and he looked completely devastated. I said, what happened? He said, when the local elections were there at that time, and one of the political candidates, he brought 2 truckloads of free alcohol for all the candidates. And not only the fathers, but even their sons, teenage sons are all drunk.
It's free.
Sorry?
Free.
Free, yes. whenever a product is given free, that means we are the product.
Except poison. Except poison.
Except poison, yeah. But even in poison, they want to get us, isn't it? So basically, what happened was, at that time I started thinking, that at one level, I'm trying to help people, but are people able to receive that help? There is something within them which prevents them from taking that help. So that's the time I started reading a little bit more of self-help and spirituality. So when I read Bhagavad Gita at that time, and I read 3.36, Rajan asked this question: what is it that makes us do wrong things? What is it that makes us, almost against our will, do that which is harmful for us? Atha kena prayuktoyam papam charati purusha anichchanapi varshneya baladivanyojitaha. As if by force we are impelled to do something wrong. So then when I read that, and when I gradually started understanding the philosophy of the Bhagavad Gita, what is struck is that for all of us, within us there are some anarthas. There's lust, anger, greed, envy, pride, illusion. And these prevent us from doing our own good, doing good for ourselves. And now, for example, domestic violence is a significant issue in so many parts of the world. In the Western world, it's an issue. And so the government makes a lot of laws, and if there is a small incident also, you should report to the police, and the police will come and arrest the offending man, and it can become, it can sometimes lead to overreaction. But almost there's many studies done, 90% of, between 70 to 90% of domestic violence cases happen because of alcohol. When people are drunk, everybody becomes angry. But when do people become violent? It's when, see, what alcohol does is it removes our inhibitions. We all have certain inhibitions about doing certain actions. Alcohol removes our inhibitions, and then we may act in ways in which we would normally never act. So now nobody wants to talk about that aspect. Why? Because there's big money for the alcohol industry. I had a friend in Japan, so he was telling me that because there is a lot of workload everywhere, but especially in Japan there's a lot of workload, so people are under stress, so they smoke a lot. And because of smoking, they have a lot of insurance, and a lot of the economy goes down because of people's health going down. So the health ministry gave us strong recommendation to the government, saying that we should create a heightened awareness about smoking and get people to stop smoking. But then there is the whole lobby of the cigarette producers. And from the government's perspective, they are giving us taxes. And this campaign against smoking, that will take our money. So that campaign is spread very much. So what is the point which I am making over here is that in some ways my intent, you could say, when I was going there and trying to offer an education to the children, was good. But I saw the desired consequence was not coming. So then, am I responsible for the consequence? If I know consciously that this person is short-tempered, and then I end up giving them money, by which they buy alcohol and they become more short-tempered, and they attack someone. Then legally I may not be responsible, but still morally I am responsible. And if I give a gun to someone and that person goes and shoots someone, then legally I am also culpable. The point is that for us, when we are going to do a particular action, we have to consider the intent, content and consequence. And based on that, we have to choose the right action. So now at one level you could say a person is starving, and if they have nothing else to eat and they are given meat to eat, at least they will live. And Prabhupada also said, when devotees told that if you go to at that time the Soviet Russia, and there's no vegetarian food available over there, and Prabhupada said, eat meat, but share Krishna consciousness, but preach. So in extreme situations, if there's no food, even animal food is okay. But in most cases, it is not like that. So in most cases, Some people say that, hey, if we don't eat animals, animals will grow so much that they will overrun the earth and there is no space for humans to live. That is completely untrue. Because in today's world, animals are produced in the factory farms. Now artificial insemination is done so that animals can be produced in large number and they are produced to be killed. So it is not that the animals are growing in nature and they are overgrowing and we are going there and killing them. It's not like that. We are systematically growing them so that we can kill them. So in that sense, intent, content, consequence if we see, based on that we can take a prudent decision. So if somebody is starving and there is no food available, okay, then at that time meat is okay. But if there is an alternative where somebody can be given something which is not anti-devotional, then that is much better. And we can try to contribute to something like that. Does that answer your question?
Meat eating is a karma or a sin?
It's both.
But Manu Dharma says otherwise. Kshatriyas, Shudras, they can eat meat. They get karma but not sin. Is that right?
Okay.
If I'm deviating, it's okay.
Okay. So is it that eating meat gives karma but not sin? Well, I don't really know whether you can really differentiate between karma and sin like that. Basically, you could say that there is good karma and there is bad karma. And bad karma itself is called as sin. So now in the
About Manu Dharma then?
yeah, okay, I'll come to that point. See, pravrittiresha bhutanam nivrittistu mahaphalam. So this is in the Bhagavatam also, and this is also there in the Manu Samhita. The point over there is that say meat eating, intoxication, and to some extent promiscuity, unrestricted sexuality. These are the ways of general human beings. Pravrittiresha bhutana. But nivrittistu mahaphalam. If one gives this up, then one can get a great result. So the idea is that instead of seeking the Bhagavatam or generally the broad dharmic texts, don't give dharma as one circle. If you are doing this, you are dharmic. If you are doing out this, you are adharmic. You give dharma as a set of expanding concentric circles. So it's like imagine a pyramid. So the top of the pyramid is one small point. As you keep downward, it becomes much bigger in the perimeter, in the circumference. So like that, we could say there are dharmas for different levels of people. And what is the point of having dharmas for different levels of people? That if you cannot fit here, then you fit here. If you cannot fit here, you fit here. So the idea is, it's not 1-0. If you are doing this, you're going back to God. If you are not doing this, you want to go back to Him. Now we can say that for Kshatriyas, meat eating was allowed, which is true. Now there are practical reasons for this. Kshatriyas have to do a lot of physical work, fighting. And if Kshatriyas are going into the forest, grains don't grow naturally. And traditionally, according to Kshatriya codes, you're not meant to plunder. Even if there are some farms, you're not meant to plunder that just like that. So then, if they're going through forest areas, and the sages in the forest can live on herbs and fruits and vegetables. But Kshatriyas who have to do heavy physical work, they at the least need grains. And if grains are not available, then meat can be eaten. So Kshatriyas could eat meat. But you have to see that Kshatriyas, what else they did? Kshatriyas were ready to give up their life when the citizens were endangered. Kshatrayate iti Kshatriya, one who protects them from Kshatriyas, protects others from injury, from hurt, they are Kshatriyas. So some people want to say that I am a Kshatriya, so I will eat meat. But okay, are you doing the dharma of Kshatriya? Yuddhe chapya palayanam. If dharma has to be protected, are you ready to fight against all odds? Most people are not ready to do that. So we cannot take, this was allowed, yeah, it was allowed. So the point I am making here is that, yes, if you could say that for Prabhupada broadly, the four regulative principles which he has given, it is a Brahminical way of living. Prabhupada has not just given us Vedic dharma, he has given us the best of Vedic Dharma. So Vedic Dharma can be multi-level. There can be many concentric circles. Now if somebody may say that, okay, I want to be at the level where I eat meat. And that's Kshatriyas are doing. Okay, that's okay, but Kshatriyas are doing many other things. If you're not doing those other things, then, and I say, I'm a Kshatriya, so I eat meat. Okay, then Kshatriyas would do something which would, many things to give them punya. And within that particular lifestyle, this was an accommodation. See, in every level of dharma, there is, you could say, a recommendation and there is a concession. So now concessions should not be made as recommendations. If you go to a doctor and the doctor says, okay, you've got diabetes. So then a doctor says, okay, you take this medicine morning, afternoon, evening. And he says, no, and don't take any sweets. No, doctor, I can't live without sweets. Okay, take sweets only once a week. Hey, no, not once a week, I can't do that. Okay, twice a week. No, not twice a week. No, nothing more than twice a week. Now, the doctor says, okay, twice a week. And this person comes back and tells his family and everyone else, my doctor told me to take sweets twice a week. And the person doesn't take the medicine. So now, yes, take sweets twice a week. That's also what the doctor told. But that's not the recommendation. That's the concession. Recommendation is what I want you to do. Concession is what you want to do and I allow it. So, the positive activities of Kshatriyas, respecting the sages, protecting the citizens, protecting dharma, those are like the recommendations. And eating meat is like a concession. So, the important thing is that say, for a diabetic patient, if they are going to eat sugar, that is going to have consequences. But if they are also taking food properly, they are overall having a healthy lifestyle, then that may not have that much consequences. So similarly, if one is living an overall dharmic life of a Kshatriya, and within that they are eating meat, the other consequences might be offset by that. Within that whole life, that's okay. Sarvarambha hi doshena dhumena agnirvavrita. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that all endeavors are covered by fog, just as fire is covered by smoke. Okay? So we have to consider not just the recommendations, not just concessions, but also primarily the recommendations.
You can consider these 16 rounds as also concession.
Well, okay. Yes and no. Are the 16 rounds a concession? Well, Prabhupada did present it like that, but you have to see very carefully what Prabhupada said. Prabhupada said that my spiritual master said that anyone who doesn't chant 64 rounds is fallen. But he did not say that. Even in Gaudiya Math, I have met many disciples of Srila Prabhupada, some disciples I have met of disciples of devotees of Gaudiya Math, and it was not a standard that everybody had to chant 64 rounds. Then especially say those who were maybe widows just living in the ashram, or those who were brahmacharis or sannyasis who did not have active preaching service. They were told 64 rounds. But the average was that it was basically, that was not 64 rounds. It was 4 rounds, 8 rounds, 16 rounds, whatever. It was, so as compared to the standard, always remember Krishna. Whatever 16 rounds is, you could say concession. But from a practical perspective, 16 rounds is quite a serious prescription. And if we do that, that itself can Krishnaize our consciousness significantly. Okay, so what was your question? Research, no? Yeah. So with this, I think it will answer, but I just make a couple of points over there. Say if sometimes some research is involving some killing of some animal, but some medicine is developed, some further therapies or treatments are developed by that. So should we be a part of it? Well, I have discussed with several senior devotees about this. I'll give one as an example. Say organ donation. Now should we do it or should we not do it? Now there are some things in scripture which are very clearly given. And those are, you could say, imperatives. Those are what we have to do. But apart from that, if there is no specific point talked about in scripture, then different devotees using scriptural reasoning can arrive at different conclusions. So there is one school of thought which says that the body, whatever is its natural course, just let it go along with natural course. Now, if the body is dying, then just let it die. No need to artificially separate the body and take out some organs from there and donate it. Let nature follow its course. The other school of thought is that, well, do we really, now what does it mean to let nature follow its course in today's world? Maybe 100 years, 150 years ago, if somebody got a heart attack, then they would just die. Today, if somebody gets a heart attack, we have so many CPR and so many forms of artificial resuscitation of the body. But the person, now do we consider that interfering with the nature? No, we consider that is defibrillators available, use it and save the person. So, now what is intervention with nature or intervention in the course of nature, and what is simply protection of the body? That line might be fuzzy at some places. So the other school of thought is that, or other, not school of thought, the other line of thought is that after you have died, why be worried about what happens to your body? Why be attached to the body? If with your body you can do some good to someone, what is the, do it. There's no need to be attached to the body after you have left the body also, and be worried about what is happening to the body after that. So now, somebody might say that, oh, but if we give our eyes to someone and that person abuses the eyes to see something obscene or something like that, will I get karma for that? No, this is too extreme. If you start saying like that, if I do something, if I give someone the facility and they abuse it, now we can't control what people do. If we know somebody is going to abuse, we have to be careful. Like I said, somebody is angry and I know that they are going to use if I give them a gun, that's horrible. But when there's so many variables, you can't control them. You could even take that further and we say that anybody who does anything bad, that's because they're misusing the free will. And it's Krishna who has given everyone free will. So is Krishna responsible for everything bad that everyone does? No, it's not like that. Krishna has given us free will and it's up to us to use the free will. So generally, in such cases, there is Bhaktivinoda Thakur also talks about, and Jiva Goswami talks about that there is Shastra Praman and there is a Loka Praman. Shastra Praman is what is taught by Shastra, and Loka Praman is what is generally considered right. Now he uses the Loka Praman for example to say that there are many stories about Krishna which you may hear in Vrindavan. Say there are many devotees who stay in Vrindavan and they associate with Rajvasi and they get many sweet stories of Krishna. Now if you ask them, what is the scriptural basis for this story? No, there may be no scriptural basis for this. It's a tradition. But now as long as those are broadly in harmony with the Siddhanta and then in harmony with the mood of the Krishna Lila, then they are fine. Even the famous story of Krishna having a headache and the gopis giving the dust of their feet. This is not, as far as we have found, we are not found this in any scripture. But it's such a beautiful story which tells about the mood of the selfless devotion of the gopis. So there's no need to reject that. So Loka Praman means that if something, we're not talking about something which is openly against scripture that we have to do it, but something which is broadly considered the decent, respectable way to act in society. Then should a devotee openly not do that? No, because that will alienate. Prabhupada, when he would go for morning walks, there are some devotees who make slogans like, hi, hello, chodo, Hare Krishna bolo. Well, okay, it's nice, but the important thing is that we have to see how we appear in the world. If somebody already knows that we are Hare Krishna, then talk about say Hare Krishna, that's good. But somebody thinks of us as religious fanatics, you can't even have basic courtesies, you have to talk about your own religious names and your God's names. And if you are alienating people, you better not do that. Prabhupada, when he had gone for a morning walk, and some people came and asked him, Prabhupada had a sannyas danda and many of his sannyasis have also had a sannyas danda. So why is everybody carrying sticks? So Prabhupada said, to keep the dogs away. Now, another time, another day told me that when Prabhupada would go for morning walks and he would meet Western people, he would greet, good morning. He would not say Hare Krishna to entire new people. So, if the particular way to behave, in a respectable way to participate, we do that. So that means that if organ donation is considered to be the respectable thing to do in today's world, and that if we take a stand, I will not donate my organs. Okay, that's a preference. If somebody chooses that, that's fine. But there's no need to make that into a campaign and you should not do this or you should do this. I said there are both schools of thought and both are in their own way, there is a reasoning behind it. But there is no need, so in this case we have to try to understand scripture, maybe consult some senior devotees and then pray and use our inner compass to do the best thing. So, I know some devotees who are into who are doing some research, which is animal research. So we had a long talk with them. Should we do it or should we not do it? So then I told them that try to avoid as much as possible. But as I said, actually if I grow in this field, then eventually as somebody becomes more respectable, then they also have more influence. So this devotee, it was about 7-8 years ago when I talked with that devotee. Now that devotee has become like a very big researcher in their field, and now they have got like full grants so that they can do animal friendly research. That means, so now if that devotee had not grown in that field, say I will not do this. Well, the field would not have been affected at all. People will still keep doing that. And you would have simply not grown in your career also. But in this case, they did what they had to do. They had to do it as less as possible. But eventually they grew and now they created a whole field. At least one research unit over there. So these are all decisions which are subtle and we have to decide them according to time, place, circumstance. So like the same factor of intent, content, consequence, we consider that. And sometimes we might do a small evil so that we can we can create a structure to prevent a bigger evil. Or if we don't feel that, we might say, I want to take this principle, I will avoid this small evil entirely. That's also okay. So it has to be according to scriptural guidance as understood according to our guides and our own godly intelligence. Okay? Thank you. Okay, so I became yoga brashta in this class today. So the story, I'll just quickly conclude with a story from the Ramayana which I'm going to tell briefly. And the lesson from that. See, the Ramayana, when Lord Ram is in the forest, at that time, he goes and meets various sages. So there are two sages who meets, they're not very well known, Sarabhanga and Sudikshna. So when he meets Sarabhanga, at that time, he is just coming towards Sarabhanga and he sees a magnificent chariot in front of that sage's hermitage. And as they're looking at it, now they're kings and they have been princes, so they know big, magnificent chariots. But this chariot is far, far bigger and better. And look, whose chariot is this? It does not look like an earthly chariot. And then they come out and then they're waiting and observing, and then they see a effulgent personality coming out from the hermitage. This is not the sage. As they observe, they understand this is Indra. And Indra gets into the chariot, and then the chariot rises into the sky and disappears. And then when it disappears into the sky, at that time, they go forward, and then Sarabhanga sees this comes. Sarabhanga, Lord Ram is playing the Naralila. So he offers the respect to Sarabhanga. Sarabhanga also offers respect to him. Lord, you are the Lord. And then Sarabhanga and Ram asks him, what is going on over here? So what happened? Why had Indra come here? He said, Indra had come to me to offer the results of my punya. He said, I have done punya for a long time, and now based on my punya, I can go to Swarga. So he had come to take me to Swarga. Then you didn't go. He said, no. He said, my dear Lord, my Guru had told me that you would come and give me a darshan. And I consider your darshan to be far greater than Swarga. So, therefore, although Indra came and told me you can come with me to Swarga, I did not go. And you have blessed me now. And your darshan is far bigger because by your darshan one can attain amrutatva, not just amaratva but amrutatva, immortality, no, not just eternality one can attain. So the Lord blesses him and says, live for this life, exhaust your karma, and then you will never come back to this world. You will attain the eternal world. So Sarabhanga, he was living in this world. He could go to, the good was going to Swarga. The best is going to Vaikuntha, going to the spiritual world. So for him, the good could have become the enemy of the best. So he rejected the good so that he can get the best. Of course, in Kali Yuga, practically nobody is doing the kind of punya to go to Swarga. Now, almost everybody's house you go, they write below that either related to the pastor Swargavasi or Kailashvasi or whatever. But who knows where they are going? So you really don't know where they are going. But the point is that yes, there is the path of going to heaven by punya. There is the path of going to the spiritual world by bhakti. And there is also the path of going down towards adhogachanti tamasa, towards the hellish ways by papa. In Kali Yuga, very few people are doing punya. So practically there are only two choices. There is papa or there is bhakti. But while doing bhakti, we can also do punya. So that the whole point of that class was that if we have to choose between punya and bhakti, if I start doing punya and saying, there's no need to do bhakti. I'm taking care of my family, I'm doing my family responsibilities, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. There's no need for me to chant Hare Krishna. Then punya becomes the opponent of bhakti. And punya can take us away from bhakti. But while practicing bhakti, if we have come from a family which has taught us punya, we are living in a community that is pious or virtuous, then that can be a very good foundation on which you can build our bhakti. So in that way, as devotees, we don't reject morality, but we transcend morality. As devotees want to please Krishna, and one way we please Krishna is by directly doing devotional activities. Another way we please Krishna is by living in the world in a way that attracts people to Krishna. And that means acting in a responsible, moral, as Prabhupada said, gentlemanly way. And that way, this kind of the parallel with the practice of bhakti can not only help us grow spiritually, but it can also help us to contribute socially in whatever roles we are playing in society. So I'll summarize quickly what I spoke. So I spoke on this topic of how the good can oppose the best and as well support the best. So I talked about the bad is papa, where we are simply driven by impulses without considering anything higher. All animals are driven by impulses, but human beings, our impulses, if we just give in to them, then we start using our intelligence to do more harm with the impulses. All animals kill, but humans construct slaughterhouses to kill. All animals indulge in the mating impulse, but humans can create a whole industry of abortion. So we can become, animals don't become evil when they act according to the impulses. We humans can become terribly evil. So papa happens when we just consider impulses and the immediate pleasure that comes from the impulses. Now we humans have the capacity to go beyond our impulses. Because we can fast even if we feel hungry, I'll not take this food. So intelligence is the capacity to check our impulses. That means to evaluate it and then to regulate it. So now when we regulate it, we humans have that intelligence to sacrifice the present for the future. That means that what we giving into the impulse may give me pleasure immediately, but restraining the impulse can give me some long-term gain. So now how much long-term? That degree varies in punya and bhakti. In punya, say now a person can just enjoy sensually and not care for anything. That is papa. And if society goes to that level, the parents may abandon their children, like I talked about that boy, or they may have no children only, or they may think that children are a burden. Society will collapse by that. But when there is some long-term understanding, then parents make children, but the children make parents. So having a sense of responsibility in society is important, and you can say that is broadly punya. But we can't think only that much long term, because even that is temporary. It's certainly longer than just immediate pleasure. But even what we achieve in this life is temporary. Even what we achieve in heaven is also temporary. So I talk about the 4 levels. There is Martya, Amara, Chiranjeeva and Nitya. So the ultimate long term is the Nitya. And that comes when we devote ourselves to Krishna and practice bhakti. So punya, if it is seen as an alternative to the bhakti, then it becomes the enemy of bhakti. Then the good becomes the enemy of the bad. So people say, Manav Seva hi Madhav Seva. Then what is happening? They are doing Manav Seva and they reject Madhav Seva. Then that kind of Manav Seva is bad. But if you see Madhav Seva, not just as just worshipping the deities or chanting, but as a whole culture in which we connect ourselves and the world with Krishna. Then various kinds of activities, humanitarian activities or various isms as Prabhupada says, we can Krishnaize them, we can spiritualize them. And thus, when we are doing it this way, then the good can also become the friend of the aid of the best. And while practicing bhakti, we understand that I am doing some things, I am taking something from the world and I need to give something back to the world. Ultimately I am taking from Krishna and I am giving to Krishna, but I can give back to Krishna through various channels. And while deciding how to do charity, where to do charity, we talk about these 3 principles: intent, content and consequence. Based on that, we, according to time, place and circumstances, make a sound decision. And there are certain things which, if somebody is already inspired to do something charitable or social service kind of activity, then that is they can spiritualize that. That's a preference. So there is no need to campaign for a preference that everybody has to do. There is no need to campaign against a preference saying that this is not the principle. So preferences are preferences and there is room for them. So if you make preferences into principles, that becomes fanatical. And if you reject the possibility for preferences itself, that also becomes fanatical. So there is a room for individual inspiration, and talk about dharma as like a pyramid. It's not just you're dharmic or adharmic. There are multiple levels of dharma. And some people may split at the level of Kshatriyas are allowed to eat meat, but the Kshatriya also has other dharma. We can't just take the concessions and neglect the recommendations. It's a whole package. And based on intent, content and consequence, when we wisely choose, then through all our activities we can stay connected with Krishna and stay on the progressive path. As Prabhupada said, that we should be like ladies and gentlemen. That means we function in the way that will attract people towards our spiritual side. So people will not be directly attracted to our spiritual side, but through our behavior and our functioning in the world, people can be attracted to us and then be attracted to our spiritual side. Just as Sarabhanga rejected heaven so that he could get Lord Ram's darshan and ultimately Lord Ram's abode. Similarly, if the good becomes the competitor of the best, we need to give the good so that we can pursue the best. And most situations, the good and the best can move in parallel. Where there are some activities that are directly devotional, other activities which are devotionalized to whatever extent we can. So thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki. Jai.